Taiwan's military reported 45 Chinese military aircraft and 7 naval ships in areas around the country on Thursday. This included 25 intrusions into Taiwan's Air Defense Identification Zone, or ADIZ. This area is not the country's airspace, but it is used as a security buffer by the military. China has stepped up military posturing around Taiwan since the visit by U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to Taipei last month. Beijing claims Taiwan as part of its territory to be taken by force if necessary, despite the fact that Taiwan has never been a part of the People's Republic of China. Taiwan says that it continues to monitor Chinese military activity in the area, including by scrambling its own aircraft and deploying missile defense systems. For more on why China continues to set warplanes near Taiwan, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to Ben Lewis, a defense analyst based in Washington, D.C.
Last night, we saw 25 Chinese military aircraft enter Taiwan's ADIZ. When China does this, what's the point and what is it hoping to gain?
One, I think in the most basic way, it's a way to train PLA pilots for what China views as an inevitable operation. And so that means that, you have different types of aircraft flying together, flying over different distances, collecting intelligence or kind of screening for Taiwanese aircraft. It's intended to say, China has the right to fly where it wants, when it wants. These boundaries are imaginary. We don't care what the Taiwanese people have to say about it. We're going to fly our planes where we want. And so it's a means to degrade Taiwanese sovereignty. And it's also an intimidation tactic to say to Taiwan, yeah, we could attack you whenever we want.
In the aftermath of Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan, we saw a significant number of ADIZ incursions, specifically median line incursions. Can you explain what that line is and what its significance?
Well, I think it is very significant. The median line was established in the mid-1950s, I think around 1954 by the United States, kind of as an unofficial boundary in the Taiwan Strait. And it was intended to prevent conflict between the PRC and Taiwan. And I think that, it is quite significant that before August, we saw 23 median line violations publicly tracked by the MND since they started releasing that information publicly. And in August, we saw over 300 violations. We saw 302. And into September so far, we've seen a very high number of median line violations. I think it shows a very clear intent of the PRC that, they're attempting to demonstrate, look, there's no lines we're not going to cross, right? And you can take that idea as far as you'd like. And so I think we're going to see more going forward. We already are, and I don't anticipate that changing. And I think it's quite significant, and I personally feel it's quite concerning.
With that increase in Chinese military activity, what do you think Taiwan's military will do to respond?
Well, I think what we saw in August was the policy of just being very steadfast, still setting up scrambling jets, monitoring aircraft. And I think that is the right call. I think that, in my opinion, in this type of situation, if you give an inch, the PRC is going to take a mile. If you signal that, you're weak on this issue or that, it could be misconstrued in Chinese propaganda that, look, the Taiwanese aren't going to do anything because they know it's just true. We own Taiwan. I think that would be the angle that is spun. And I don't think that the PLA or the PRC was given the opportunity to spin that in August. I was very impressed with the professionalism of the Taiwanese armed forces. And I think it was demonstrated by the fact that, the PRC had to lie. They had to say that, we did enter Taiwan's territorial waters when they didn't. And so in regards to response, I think that the Taiwanese armed forces should continue to do what they're doing.